So, welcome everybody. It's a nice fall night, too hot, but anyway. So, yeah. Well, this is being recorded, so if people missed, I'll make sure they know how to get the video. So last time we discussed the mechanisms of karma, how I am continually generating melodrama, deeply ingraining habits, nesting in a false reality that gives me an illusion of safety, and perpetuating my own suffering in all of that. That's what we talked about, right? So basically addicted to melodrama and very skillful at sustaining it. So tonight I'd like to talk about the Buddhist path to free ourselves from this addiction, to get off the treadmill. And first, let's acknowledge how hard it is to end any addiction. Usually something terrible has to happen, some pain has to inspire a willingness to change, and you have to kind of hit rock bottom, as they say. And second, when you get to that place and you start looking for a way to change, someone has to give you ideas, someone has to help you, because you're kind of in the middle of it. And someone has to show you how. So you need other people. And I think it's safe to say, whatever brought us here at EBS, I think it's safe to say that everybody in this class and everybody who comes to EBS are like the people that the Buddha first taught at Deer Park, the ones who were ready to learn. There's that opening. So we can congratulate ourselves about that we aren't, because if you stand back and think about it, and my teacher, Dr. Lai, often reminds us of this, there are countless people in the world nowhere near looking for this kind of help. Just wandering, lost, and confused, and not everybody says, I want to know how things work, I want to know what to do. So, changing your karma is an all-hands-on-deck project. It takes a lifetime, and we have to use every tool, every resource along the way. And the classic Buddhist idea is that you've been creating these habits for thousands of lifetimes, not just this one. So they're really, really, really well entrenched. Can you hear me okay, Karen?
Yes, barely, but as long as everybody's quiet, I can.
Okay. So the path begins with looking into our own mind, because overcoming ignorance is the heart of the path. So here's how it's described in the book. It says, it will be a wholesome practice to remind oneself often of the fact that one's deeds, words, and thoughts, first of all, act upon and alter one's own mind. Reflecting thus will give a strong impetus to true self-respect, which is preserved by protecting oneself against everything mean and evil. To do so will also open a new practical understanding of a profound saying of the Buddha, and they quote him, "In this fathom-long body with its perceptions and thoughts, there is the world, the origin of the world, the enduring of the world, and the path to the ending of the world." So there's a couple of things I want to say about this right off the bat. And first, let's note that it creates what they called a strong impetus to self-respect. It's a gentle, loving, and peaceful path. No aggression whatsoever. It's a path based on the trust in our own natural capacities, an optimistic path. As my teachers say, we already have everything we need. And since this attitude is not common in the culture that bred us, we must be careful to sustain that gentleness and love. And I was just saying before, I'm going to go on a side here, that I listened to a podcast about meditation, and they were saying that in the West, when it lands here, and people start to struggle with meditation, rather than saying, oh, maybe I'm not doing it right, or maybe I need some help, they just double down and try to do it harder. And then they get into trouble. And in the East, where it came from, everybody understands, first of all, that not everybody meditates. It's a particular path with a particular objective, and that might not be what you need right now. But secondly, if you are meditating and it's going bad, you do something about it. You don't just keep going. But anyway, there should be gentleness. And I also want to highlight the phrase, a new practical understanding, which this practical understanding is the direct counter to melodrama. Because melodrama is the furthest thing from understanding. It's way out afield from understanding. It's acting out, it's blah, 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 it's all that. And there's no understanding involved in it. But the message here is that addictions will end if we fully understand how things work and where they come from. So the goal is understanding, not subjugating, not forcing yourself to behave differently, not dominance or control. It's learning. And guess what? We have a really wonderful capacity for learning. It's like I think one of our best attributes as human beings. We talked about how we all learned a language from nothing, that's amazing. And some of us learn more than one, So the point is that we have a good nature, and we only need to understand how our minds get confused for that confusion to clear up. And thirdly, I like the word practical, because this also rings true. No, trust me involved. No, have faith. No, I will deliver this to you if you do this or that. It's just do this and see what happens. The only direction is to trust your own experience. So this path of understanding, I really think it's important to frame it that way, that what we're about on this Buddhist path of changing our karma is to understand how it works. And that path of understanding involves the three aspects of Dharma that we've already described, Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna, which translates roughly to discipline or ethics, meditation, and wisdom. And we work with all three simultaneously and all the time. They become a way of life, basically, for a person on the path. We modify our behavior, that's Shila. We learn to meditate, that's Samadhi. And we cultivate understanding by reading books or listening to Dharma talks, discussing with people, and paying close attention to how karma is operating for us personally. So you could think of prajna as the place where all the rest of it gets integrated into a understanding, wisdom. But it's based on changing your behavior and meditating and looking at the world around you. So I want to talk about the practices that we do associated with Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna. So Shila, or discipline, or ethics, refers to how you behave with your body, but also with your speech and with your thoughts. Recognizing that each thought either does or does not reinforce habitual patterns. Discipline relies on mindfulness because the whole idea is to act with awareness rather than from habit. So under this category of Shila, what do Buddhists do? Well, the first action is everybody meditates. They start a meditation practice. And adding meditation to your life is step one, and I'll talk about meditation. But besides meditation, People also take deliberate steps to change thoughts and behavior, like adopting the precepts to stop drinking or eating meat. Doug talked a little bit about the precepts. And there are other kinds of vows that people take regarding behavior. One of them is to regard everyone as your equal, or even better than you, more important than you. That's a vow people take. I think 12-step programs, I don't know them, I haven't been in one, but from what I've heard from my friends who've told me about it, I think 12-step programs also offer some direction about Shila that we could adopt, and many people do. In those programs, for example, I've heard that you give up your grudges, and that you make amends when you feel guilty about how you treated someone, and very specific things like that, which directly address this sort of way you're thinking, the way you're behaving, and what you might be saying. And in addition to giving up bad or non-virtuous behaviors, we also cultivate good ones, like starting to volunteer somewhere, or reaching out to help people, or taking better care of your health, and so forth. And you're instructed to look for opportunities to do something good for people. Pema Chodron teaches something she calls pause practice, which falls under this category of Shila. She says that when something triggers you, triggers one of your habitual responses, you train yourself to pause for 1 or 2 breaths, and then just do something different than your habitual pattern. And it doesn't matter what that other thing is, as long as it's not the old thing. So instead of saying, go to hell, you might say, thank you, right? It's just that simple. But if those little tiny gestures break down and aerate and dissolve, the habits really well. So, you can say to yourself, and this is her phrase, she says, I know how this movie ends, and this time I'm going to go in a different direction. Change the script. So the bottom line with Shila is to pay close attention and behave in ways to reinforce freedom than habits. So samadhi or meditation, by the way, if anybody here or online wants to chime in with something or ask a question, feel free. Okay, samadhi or meditation generally refers to the basic calm abiding meditation that Buddha first taught to everyone. But there also are other methods of meditation in the Buddhist community, let's say. All of them designed to directly observe your mind working. In essence, you aim to see the whole process of creating karma in real time. But this ability to see your mind working takes a lot of practice because the karmic chain reaction happens so fast. Last time I read you a quote from a teacher who said that you can just remember that you've tasted a lime and your face will pucker. So that link from the thought to the physical reaction is really, really short, And so, and in the worst case, you do something about it, like whatever, I don't know. So everything is so speedy that it's really hard to catch the details to see how our behavior is leading to the experience of the world that we have. So meditation is how we slow things down so we can look at them and become familiar with the process and maybe make different choices. So it's about observing, but if I say to you, you need to meditate and watch your mind working, the chances are you're not going to see your mind working for quite some time, because the first thing that's going to happen is it's too fast. It's like when people in France talk to me in French, it's like, please slow down. I don't understand. So there's this whole like first part in meditation of learning to stay present, learning to be peaceful, learning to allow things to happen without getting into them in general. There's a kind of making peace that you have to do, making calm presence that you have to do. And that's the first training of meditation. And as you do that, as you get better at sitting and being present and being open and relaxed with what's happening inside of you, you begin to see patterns. You begin to see things coming and going. And one of the things that you see is that a thought, you start to see that a thought comes up and grabs hold of you and it's got you by the tail, and before you know it, it's disappeared. Well, where did that go? So you start to experience the ephemeral nature of thoughts and the constant flow of energy and stuff going on that seems really fixed and solid, that your habit is to nail it down, but it's not. And if you did nothing else but meditate, you would begin to realize that things are not how they seem, that all these things would come to you. But I want to be careful that when I say we meditate to see how our minds work, because it isn't like you sit down and see how your mind works. But the good news is the teachers say that you're not creating any bad karma when you're meditating. So at the very least, you could sit there and have a free zone, where you're like, okay, I'm in the box and I'm not doing any harm. So, and also when you're not doing anything, you can think about things, but that's not the same. And it's basically aligning you. You're hanging out with your big blue sky and brilliant sunlight. You're just hanging with that until that becomes more familiar than the twisted up thing. And in that space, your habit, a little bad thought or a little bad habit, is not as toxic. In the book he mentioned a spoonful of salt in a teacup is terrible, but in the ocean or a river or lake, it's not so bad. And so we're going from teacups to lakes or rivers or oceans by just letting there be space, just letting softness happen, space happen, openness. Meditation like this, though, is hard work, and it takes a lot of time, and you have to stick with it. Because there's this part you have to get through, like I said, of, am I doing it right? I don't like this, restlessness comes up. But in my experience, it takes on its own momentum after a while. Once you get into the habit of meditating, and that can take people, when we teach the Wednesday night meditation class, I always ask everybody, what do you want to work on? And everybody says, well, I can't get a regular daily habit of meditating. It's the hardest thing. And I often say, well, that's because I don't say you're doing it wrong. I say check your expectations, because you're sitting there, it doesn't meet what you're expecting, and so why would that be fun or easy? But once you get through that sort of bumbly stage at the beginning, insight and understanding rapidly grows, I think. And that's because first of all, we are not the habits we think we are. We are the big blue sky. That is true. And our hearts and our minds want to be liberated. Very much. And so when you give them the opportunity, we respond. Our whole being responds. And I'm cautious about selling the wonderful results from meditation, because somebody's going to say, well, that's not what I saw, but just give it a try and see what happens. But I would say for me, it probably took 5 or 6 years of really, in the place where Mick and I started, You were supposed to meditate 1 hour every day. And we really tried to do that. And longer on weekends, and then you go away for a whole week and do it 10 hours a day, that kind of thing. So we were earnestly meditating, and I still was like, but I'm thinking too much, but I'm, just twisted up. It took a very long time. So that's meditation. Prajna, or wisdom, I said, was reading, talking, and studying, but also talking to yourself, teaching yourself. I do that all the time. Study the teachings on impermanence, emptiness, egolessness, for example. Teachings that challenge your views and expand your understanding and shed new light on your experience. And this kind of study plants seeds in your minds that ripen. When you're going about your daily life, you'll go, oh, look at that. That's an example of impermanence happening right in front of me. Because you know to look for it, because you know what it is when it shows up, because you've studied, you've done your homework. So, in that reading about karma, for example, read the book and think about it and what we've talked about, and then look at your life and see if it reflects any of that, if it's true, if it's happening in your life, if you're cultivating habits, and why, and what are they, and what do they do for you, and all of that. You can use Pema's pause practice to break habits, do something new or different, but there are other things in the same vein, anything that helps you try something different. And the interesting thing to me, one of the most interesting things, is that once you see how things work, the change just happens. And so, I think maybe we come to this whole process thinking, I want to change. We're saying, how do you change your karma? And you think you're actually going to change your karma, right? But actually what you're going to do is you're going to learn and you're going to understand. And then the karma changes itself, which is just so cool. So I'm going to stop now.
Did you repeat what you just said? Part of it I didn't hear.
Okay, I'll say it
Just that
louder.
last sentence.
Okay, well, so we come to this process wanting to change our karma, and we think we're actually going to change something. But what happens instead is that we simply learn and start to see how things work, and then the change happens by itself.
Oh, okay.
If you think about it, if someone tells you, eating too much salt gives you heart problems or whatever, you learn that, you're going to stop eating salt, or you're going to be some people are going to be a little more mindful of their salt. You know what I mean? Because they understand. So it's not, you have these two options, or at least many other ones, but one of them is to be like on your case all the time, watching your behavior, watching, am I doing it right? Am I being kind? Am I being blah, 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 blah? But if you think about, how an adult knows things that a child doesn't know, so the adult doesn't have to be reminding themselves all the time, don't talk to strangers, don't talk to strangers. They just don't, So it's like that. It's like as your understanding of how things work evolves, your behavior will change. So again, I pause for comments, questions, thoughts.
This is a bit of a tangent, but it strikes me that adults that don't change that habit, you know that you need to stop eating salt. And the adults that don't stop eating salt, it's because they really don't understand, right?
Maybe so.
So it does take the understanding in order for the change to happen.
Yeah.
You can't just change and then understand.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a really fair point, because a lot of people, like I have a sister who has a lot of trouble with money. She's older than I am, and she's so confused about money. It's not that she doesn't know, right? I mean, probably there's something about the way she handles her money habits that are important to her, you know? And we could tell her, we do, all the rest of us, you shouldn't probably do that, but, and the change will happen when she gets it into her own being.
When she understands why she's doing what she's doing, or she understands what the disconnect is, or she really understands like the benefit or whatever it is.
The whole picture, really,
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
picture, yeah,
Yeah.
in an integrated kind of way. And then the change will be much easier for her.
Right,
But if she's just damning herself into spending less, it's not gonna work.
right.
Anything else?
Well, I was thinking one advantage that trying to do this kind of work has over trying to eat less salt is because you don't, hopefully you don't ever find out what the real problem is in your body with getting too much salt or whatever, because the chemical reactions in our body are opaque to us. But a lot of the work that we're talking about, you're seeing it in your mind in real time. You know that when you go through the world in a bad mood and, resentful and paranoid, that you poison everything around you. You're drawn to people with similar characteristics. It all gets really obvious once you realize what you're really thinking about all day. And you realize that most of it is not good, And as you become more aware of that, right, you just naturally let go of it. It's like, well, I don't want to think about terrible things all day,
right. And
that's what I've been doing for 20 years, I'm going to deliberately pick more wholesome things to think about, because now I see the danger, and once your sort of inner environment, as that shifts, then so many things just happen naturally. You start speaking and acting in a slightly different way, but people are very attuned to that. They can see when you come in the room, total negative Nancy, or you come in the room, it's like, well, let's see what we can do,
Yeah,
It's night and day.
no chip on your shoulder.
And then you start finding yourself being drawn to a different sort of person, right?
Yeah.
Because as you become clearer about what you're about, about what it really means to be a good person, to be big-hearted, those are the kind of people you want to be around. Your values change, right? They can.
They can.
And so suddenly you're acting differently, you're around different people, and there's a way in which, people who have done this work on themselves, they're kind of living in a different world. It's not like you're safe from asteroid hits or whatever, you're still,
or whatever.
you were born a human being, right? And so you're going to get all the human stuff. There's a, illness going around, you can catch it or whatever. That all is still true. But of course, most of our lives are really determined by our interactions with other people. And that's what you have so much control over by changing, by clarifying your thinking and your feeling. So that's my speech.
Thank you. I like it.
Self-inflicted wounds.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple of times had the lovely experience of going through the world with a Buddhist teacher beside me. Like one time, there was a Lama visiting Little Rock, and he wanted me to take him. I took him to Walmart. He had to buy some socks. He wanted to go to Walmart. And so we were walking through Walmart. He's in the red robes, and I was thinking, what are these people? We were in Benton. And I was thinking, what is this going to be like? And he was I realized, it just struck me so hard that he's looking at those people the same way he looks at me. I mean, damn it. Honestly, I've done all the work to be a Buddhist, and I want him to look at me differently. I want him to see, But no, we're all just important, wonderful people to him. He was like glowing, and not in a fake way. He was like taking in, the families and the big graphic t-shirts over all the bellies, and all the things that you see in the Walmart in Benton. And it was a beautiful world to him. And it was like, that was such a lesson for me. And the other one was a friend, another teacher who I took to the airport. And a crowded, busy airport, and people would stop and start telling her their problems. It was like, and I thought, oh, this is annoying. Oh my God, how does she handle this? And she was just eating it up. And she was just, because it didn't take long, she just take a minute to go, oh, I'm sorry you're having a hard day, or whatever. And just that, like, presence and comfort in the world was very enviable and made me think about mine. But people do respond. You're right, Doug. It's a reverberating feedback
A virtuous
system. Yeah.
This just reminds me many years ago, and it's not because I was elevated in any way, but because I was feeling different. I had been at UAMS for several years, absolutely terribly, miserably depressed, and I had an opportunity to go to California to do my foot fellowship. So it's going to be a new start. And so I was able to leave that behind. And as I drove to California, I was already so much more hopeful.
Yeah.
Load had been lifted off my shoulders. I had no idea what I was getting into, but there was that time that I felt light. And I would walk in to get gas and I felt, and people were smiling at me.
Yeah.
Nobody has smiled at me for years. And people in New Mexico are so friendly. People in Arizona are so friendly. It was I who had changed. Well, at least on the outside.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's both, they may be acting a little different, and you're also perceiving the friendliness more clearly.
See it.
You're tuned in.
Yeah, my mind was my emotional mind state was in a different place. Unconsciously, but I was in a different place, and things came to me in a more favorable way.
Right.
So I had been creating all this negative stuff, and now things were becoming more positive, because I was slightly different at that point. Didn't last long.
Well, life has its ups and downs. But I mean, this was one of the things, and I think about it this way, it's just, I have these funny little things that I say to myself, it's like, when a saint looks at you, what do they see? They see the very best part of you. When a saint, S-A-I-N-T, when a saint looks at you, they see the part of you that's holy, and that's what happens when you're in kind of this, different mind state. It's like you see the best parts of people, or you're willing to look for the best parts of people. It's like, I know there's a good attitude in there somewhere. I'm going to keep talking to you until I pull it out of you,
We were talking earlier today about this kind of thing, and it really struck me, this change you're talking about, or this saint-like element, that it's not to me, frequently change seems insurmountable to me. It's too much, it's going to be too hard, there's too much that has to happen. But I think what's closer to the truth is, if I smile, this person will smile back. That you just got in a car and drove to New Mexico. I mean, you didn't really change that much, but it was enough.
Yes.
It was enough. And so I do think it's a much smaller change than I sometimes perceive it to be.
Good point.
Yeah, and I think that the changes add up.
Yeah.
And that they snowball.
There's a cumulative aspect
Exactly.
of karma. Yeah.
Exactly. Because again, and this is the most beautiful thing about what Buddha saw, we are already perfect. And we are the big blue sky in the sunlight. And that's what wants to be expressed in our lives. And so when you give it an opening, it opens. It's good. It's good news.
See, I want to believe that. I believe that and I hear that well, I have some major resistance,
That's all right.
aversion, whatever. Keep saying it.
Okay, we'll keep
Right.
saying it.
Well, because
Yeah.
it seems impossible, right? We have this idea in our minds that it's
So
like,
counter to everything
That's-
I've ever
right,
felt.
that's
Like
not
about
how the
yourself,
world
you mean?
works, right?
You're saying that about yourself or just in general? In
About
your-
myself, no, about myself, yeah. I'm not making judgments of anybody else, it's what's my personal experience, but I want to believe that that is the case.
Right, so that's,
There's a teacher, Eric Pimlo, who
Yeah.
does a simple practice just to get out of your rut and your kind of standard filters that you're viewing the world with, is that anybody that irritates you, whether it's just personal or public, you just look at them and say, okay, darling, or to yourself. You call them darling to yourself.
Thich Nhat Hanh
Darling.
talks about that too, right?
And it's just a way of like diffusing your habit. And it's really ingenious because it just flips the script enough for you to see what a rut you're in, what a habit you're in. That's my favorite part of traveling. It's kind of funny, it's just like very comfortable at our cozy little place, cozy little town, cozy friends. But as soon as I get out of town, it's like the world is freaking great, It's like, and even the scuzzy cityscapes, it's like, yeah, isn't that funky? That's so cool, It's like that. But if I go, downtown, it's like, oh my God, it's so depressing.
Urban blight.
But it's such a and then after a while you're out and you're just saying, it's like, oh, I feel like I want to be cozy and home again. But I don't know, it's just the habitual mind is not a thing to sniff at, it's such a big deal. And it's like the habitual mind goes back decades and decades if you're like me.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The imprint is like, the grooves are really deep.
Right. Well, the thing about calling somebody darling is what are you doing? Well, who do you call darling? You call people in your family darling or
Yeah.
sweetie pie or whatever, that's the Buddhist way.
Yeah,
Everyone is a brother or a sister.
Yeah.
That's the template for human interaction in Buddhism, And the other thing is we were talking about metta right at the beginning, and you say your habits, right? Habits are so difficult. Well, how do you change your habit? Well, how can you change your habit of how you see the world and how you interact with the world every minute of every day? Well, that's where that internal metta comes in. How do you talk to yourself?
good.
talk to yourself.
Good one, Doug, good one.
The way you would talk to your child. It's going to be okay. We're going to figure it out. You screwed that up, but it's okay. We can get it fixed and do it again. It's going to be all right.
It's the shift that you're saying.
Right. If you talk to yourself,
Well, I don't have
More
children.
kindly.
That's the reason I'm motherless.
But that is the shift.
well, so
Yeah.
like your sister.
No, I know what you're saying. But I think that's what a lot of us struggle with, is that I am so great with others. I mean, you would never know that I beat myself
Yeah.
up. It's
Right.
like my internal dialogue
Right.
is ruthless.
Because we believe we don't deserve it.
Well, and I think
We're
I
not
think-
good enough.
when we talk about these people that want to start meditating and they run into a wall about it, I think that's what they're seeing for the first time, how
Right.
judgy they are towards themselves.
Yeah, you're
They're
just
seeing
like,
that
you're hearing all
harshness.
this, oh yeah,
Yeah, it's harsh and
Internal
mean,
monologue.
it's ugly.
and it says you're not doing it right, and you're
Yeah.
and it's just like, yeah, you need help getting through that.
It's hard.
It is
That
hard.
part's hard. I started with a mantra last year that was just, I'm perfectly made, I'm perfectly pure, perfectly flawed, and it was like those three things I would just kind of rotate through just to be more gentle, so that the rat race. But it's incredible. We were talking about how fast our minds are at how well I can multitask. I can do that same, I was getting to where I could do that mantra, but still think about all the things.
At
that-
the same
And
time,
the other voice is still
Oh,
talking,
it's
right?
Yes.
like, how is this possible? It's exhausting, and so I still battle with that. I still battle with, I've got a more gentle dialogue going on. I don't necessarily, so it's subtle. My goodness, it's subtle now. It's like, it's never harsh words anymore. It's just constant reminder. It's like, it's not there. Weren't you planning on having this experience with it? And like, I also feel like there's supposed to be an experience with it. I want this like accomplishment every time instead of just sitting on that. And if that's the accomplishment, and then you attach to things, outcomes that you've had, like my child saying, I think we talked about that one of the times you were here, saying that they notice. They're like, I let mom meditate. She's not.
yeah, she's better at
She's better after she meditates.
Don't.
And I was like, oh, well, that,
Yeah.
if you attach to that, you're like, oh, but this is an outcome I keep
Right.
attaching to it, like
Right.
the fruits of the labor.
Right.
It's so much.
Well, I think the
Right.
thing is, I just want to say to you that, like, no one ever told you any of this before. How would you have figured out, right? All of your growing up, you were like, our culture is just so, and even in families, there's more specific issues about, you're not doing it right, it's all on you, blah, 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 blah. And there's no voice. There's no voice that's like, you're fine. You're beautiful. You're perfect,
And I'm also reading another one of Pema, I forget how to say her name.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll leave it.
Yeah, but she said that too, that there's this movement of positive affirmation, like I was trying to do with myself,
Yes.
and it really did have it did actually help.
Yes.
But that it also can, I mean, that you almost want to, that becomes aggressive.
Yeah.
That positive affirmation
Yeah.
becomes almost aggressive, and you're trying to beat down this feeling of unworthiness that isn't true, that's all passing memory, I think is what she used the wording for that it's, and if you can see it as something, and then I made that connection of like, with years of therapy as well, of like, where was this original feeling of not being worthy, where was this feeling of getting it wrong? What's childhood? I mean,
Yeah, sure.
it was the conditioning of
Sure.
my parents doing the best they could, but they couldn't help what they were taught to, it's a
Yeah.
whole big mess, right? And so I think about that, it's like, that's not happening anymore. That's not my truth anymore. My truth is I'm in a healthy family space, got food on my table, like, I'm really actually okay. But you're like those thoughts and those memories, but realizing that they're distant, they're not here, they're not now. That was interesting.
One thing I heard about meditation that was really helpful to me, and it's kind of on the Vipassana level of watching your thoughts, but that when you're sitting and you have thoughts just barge in, and they can be very compelling or very juicy or angry or whatever they are, it's not the content of the thoughts. And they actually originate in the same place that dreams originate. So you just consider them as dreams. So if you're even thinking about a meeting in the next hour, that's a dream. And you can go regard it as like, it's not the content, it's something else, it's the energy, and you can look at it with a step away from it, and you start looking at whatever arises in your mind in that way as kind of a dream, and it's not necessarily the content, it's the energy, and it's serving a purpose. In this case, it's like trying to ground you in this
Yes. Yeah.
this world that is groundless, and energetically we all have our own, stakes that hold us to the ground or tries to, and so it's been really super helpful. When they say watch your thoughts, I've never been able to say, watch them go by, but you can sort of watch them, it's like, look at that one,
Stay aware.
Yeah.
I want to say
Texture.
another thing about, just another tip is to catch yourself not having those thoughts.
That's right.
That's
Because-
hard to do. It's hard for me to see when they're not going.
No, but I mean, it's not, it feels like that's the constant sound inside of your head. But probably it isn't. I mean, it's the one that you're hearing. But are there spaces between it? Are there times when it's not there? Are there other voices that you just don't, because they don't have as much juice or energy or whatever, they're not familiar? Because that's a lot of what karma is. It's about choosing this and not that. But it's all coming at you. Like I was listening to a podcast about how you hear. And they were talking about how your brain, like you're in a room and your brain is tuning out as much as it's tuning in.
Oh, yeah.
So if you think about that with your mind, what is your mind not tuning into? And just be curious about that and see, maybe it's not there, maybe you won't have that experience, but just challenge that this may be not true, that all you hear are these terrible, I don't know, just a tip.
Well, I mean, I think building up an alternate voice is good, but one thing that struck me, and I'm sure I'm stealing this from some teacher or other, but well, I mean, there's teachers who will call that the voice of Mara, that negative voice, that's just always telling you why it's not going to work and you're not any good at this and just forget it, and that there's no wisdom in it. That's what really struck me after a while is it's just a tape recorder. And when you realize that no matter, even if you did everything perfectly, that voice would find something to criticize. There's no wisdom to it. There's no intelligence behind it. It's just your old, conditioning from parents and the world and whatever, just talking. It never shuts up, and what helped me was realizing that there was nothing behind that voice. It finally started getting quieter. I quit believing in it, right? It's just like, first you realize it's not you, and then you realize it's really just this leftover poison, this tape recording. Anyway, it's my little speech about that. Right, and it will never stop no matter what you do. And so just learn to start setting it aside. It's like, yes, you go on.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, Gary. Sweetie.
Argument that doesn't help.
Yeah, because you're feeling it, right?
Yeah.
Argument that does not help.
Because you're taking it seriously, then it's like, yes, you're
Giving it
listening
You're
to
engaging.
Mr. Mara, I see you.
Hi.
That's right. That's what the Buddha says.
Hi.
When the Buddha would say, "I see you, Mara," the Mara would pop up, and suggest to the Buddha that he stop teaching and helping people so much or whatever, and would say, "I see you, Mara." And Mara would have to leave. Once it's recognized, you don't believe me anymore now. So.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just
No, you're right. But that's we go back to that poem in the first part about house builder you have been seen.
Right.
You will not be building any more houses.
Maras have all flavors, whether
Sure.
it's like lurid, juicy things or negative things.
Anything to keep
Or
you
wool
wrapped up
gathering,
in the world,
Dreamy,
negative or positive.
something other than here, right now, presence.
Right. The other thing I think about, we talked about treating people as family, so that this difficult person just becomes, there's that family member, right? That you just have to sort of work with, and jolly them along. It's like, we can do it, right? But then I guess, maybe phase 2 is difficult people are your teacher, and that's kind of a stretch sometimes,
It's so hard sometimes.
but difficult people can be your teacher because first with the reactions they bring out of you, what a rich source of things to contemplate. Let me think of the 20 things I thought today when you said 5 words, and it just made me crazy, and you realize what a reactive sort of person you are. It's very instructive.
Yes, my students teach at Pulaski Tech, and they're they're just not they're just not carefully articulate with their requests for what they need. It's more demanding,
Yeah,
and I realize that turns on my, I'm like, it bites me so bad, and it used to, I've taught for 15 years, so for the first several years, I would fight back and give them all this, stuff, like, here's the syllabus, here's this, you come to class, blah, blah, blah. But every time I have to respond to one of those kind of emails, I'm like, take a breath,
yeah,
remember they're human, and imagine that they have no idea how they sound.
yeah,
Imagine that they have no idea what they wrote, that they really just struggle with writing or just trying to get the email out, and so they're not thinking through how entitled they come across. So it's that kind of like pause.
mm-hmm,
I mean, and so I feel like there's been a lot of growth over the years for me. So I say that for that reason. Like, I have changed tremendously with my students and all of that. But those nuggets are still there. That
Sure.
like, it's so interesting to watch the teaching moment, the teachable moment of like, oh, okay.
It's like, oh, you found my button and you pressed it.
Yeah,
I
there
didn't
it
think
is.
I had a button like that anymore, but you found it.
Yeah, and treating them all like the Buddha. I mean, I didn't really realize that that's what I was doing, but that they're the most important thing in the room. When they have a question,
mm-hmm,
I've come and, I even now create my space so that we just ask questions as we are teaching and learning, and like I make them do, it's a whole thing, and so I'll walk and sit right there and pull up a chair and we sit and look straight at that question. It's this whole thing
mm-hmm,
that is transformed. And so this is when I don't feel, when I judge my experience, where I think it has changed. I've never gotten gifts from students. I'm teaching for 15 years. The last
Yeah.
3 semesters, I've gotten 4 or 5 gifts from
Hey.
students saying that it changed, that I've changed
Something's
their
changed.
experience. Like they never knew instruction could be that way, or that going to college. And part of me is like, well, I can't carry that. Because even just y'all saying, oh wow, I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to, I shouldn't have even told them, I should have just kept it to myself. You know how you're supposed to kind of keep all that stuff to yourself. So you kind of, that balance of like going, okay, here's a moment, a glimmer of like, there is change happening, it is happening, but like not attaching to it so much that becomes.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
tricky, you gotta be
It's so
careful.
balanced. Yeah, the balance is so hard.
It's
Keeping it
interesting,
balanced.
just as you said that, my thought was, that makes me want to go back to college.
That sounds fun.
No, please do.
Right.
No. You mean they're teachers back then?
Right.
No.
It's a
Wow,
blessing
that's
to
different.
get a teacher.
I mean, but that's, again, a lot of work.
Yeah.
I've done 6 years of therapy, and I know that that's
Yeah.
small in comparison, but it was every week. It was every week for a while there,
Yeah.
and I didn't have that hard childhood.
Yeah.
I really didn't, but my mind was creative on beating me up and just having.
But you know that people that raised you didn't know, and they don't know, and you didn't know, and so nobody knew. I mean, I think that's the whole kind of miracle of what the Buddha did. He saw this stuff that he just was able to see, and brought it back to the rest of us. And so how can you blame people for what they don't know, You just, even yourself, right?
Gosh, yeah.
You just didn't know.
And that's you're saying about parents. I had a lot of blame. I had a lot of anger towards my parents for a few years, but then it just clicked one day. I went to go actually address it, and that was probably a good moment. Oh my gosh, yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I just see her. I don't
Yeah.
see her as my mom. I don't see
Right.
her. It was like this
right.
beautiful being,
Right.
and I would, and just to try all our best. Now that happened for me as a child of the family, but that has not happened for all my siblings. So there's a lot of bitterness still,
Yeah,
and that they all think I've gone crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
what's happening to you? I mean,
Right.
I'm the one that keeps us all
right.
light. I'm kind of like the Buddha walking through.
So
Yeah.
you're not appropriately bitter anymore.
Right, like I don't gossip, I don't like get mad at mom because it just doesn't serve us to get on the soapboxes anymore. I mean, she's done her best. I
Yeah.
guess.
Right. It's
It's
done
also
now.
fascinating, isn't it?
It's so fascinating. But again, I think first of all, you're blowing their minds, which is great, right?
Well, that's
They're gonna be
different
like, no, maybe there's something to that, I don't know, whatever, but if, whatever you're doing is,
I hope so. I watch, my sister is the closest to me, and she's the one that hurts the most, and it's interesting, because we are so, the way we see the same situation, like you said, you've got
Exactly.
different lenses on, you've got different
Exactly.
goggles on, or whatever, I'm like, it's so crazy we're experiencing the same thing, and you see it so differently.
yeah, and I think the bottom line in all of the Buddhist doctrine is compassion.
Mm.
Because, you know, God, it's so hard, and you just feel so bad for all these people who have no clue and only hear the raging, grumpy voices. They never hear anything else.
Yeah, exhausting.
What hell are they in, you know?
Yeah.
And you just can't be mad at them. You just can't, you know, you just have to. There's a quote I like from one teacher: if you saw how things really are, the only response would be compassion.
Yeah, and I feel it. There is that one.
So we have to, Pema's good at encouraging us to be compassionate for ourselves, because she knows we're not.
Yeah. There was your own, that's in one of her, There's No Time to Lose.
Yeah.
I dabble in all of her books, so I'm not big of that one. But that one talked about the hell is actually true because it's what you've created for yourself.
Yeah,
And when you choose to live in that negativity that we were talking about earlier, it's hell.
It is hell.
That's what hell is.
Yeah.
And you're continuing to live in it, and that's more what the definition of hell would be versus some biblical.
yeah, or afterlife or whatever.
Yeah, or any of that. You're actually living it right now.
Sartre's play.
So I think have the Zoom people, are they okay? Does anybody send anything
No, what-
or ask anything?
Comments are clear. They're all just
Okay.
hanging out.
All right, well, I have finished what I need to say, and tonight, and it's kind of time to end. I got the gong out because I was going to have us meditate, but I feel like we did better by what we talked
We'll
about.
talk
Well,
therapy.
you all know
Sorry.
and everything. So we're not meeting next week, and we're not meeting
No, we're skipping 1 week.
1 week. Okay.
Thanksgiving.
Next week, oh, because it's Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, so no class next Wednesday.
I need to look.
Brining that turkey or whatever you're doing. So,
But let's see, let me look at my calendar.
So then the next week,
That's right, so we're not meeting on the 26th, but we will meet on December 3rd.
right?
And
For
Doug,
3 weeks.
you'll tell us what the reading assignment is for that?
Right, well, I think there's a chapter on the Four Noble Truths.
Okay,
I think it's
I've forgotten which one it is, but that's,
3,
that-
4.
that's out of that book, right?
You want us to, that's what you want us to read then, or are you just gonna talk about it?
here, if I give you the book, will you see?
Yeah, either way.
It's on the spreadsheet, if it's still updated.
Well,
I didn't put anything, well, we sort of started over because as things became clearer, but now I have to go look at the table of contents.
yeah, and there's not really one called the Four Noble Truths,
No, it's.
unless it's called the Buddhist
It's
Teachings.
chapter 3.
Chapter 3, yeah, the Buddhist Teachings. Oh, that's the Four Noble Truths, okay.
Yeah, so chapter 3
Chapter
will
3
be
and
the
then,
assignment. And I have it's actually, if you go to ebslr.org/4NT, I have this page of notes. It's kind of my,
okay.
Your brain.
it's
Your-
it's
your
sort of what I've
transcript.
collected, because I've gone through like Four Noble Truths type classes a few times, and so these are my class
Oh,
notes.
okay.
So
So it's got its own address.
Right.
But so is it, have you consolidated your thoughts, or is it?
No, that's why, I mean, I had it out there for people in the class to look at too, so, you know, but it's things that, sort of the things that I like to emphasize walking through the Four Noble Truths.
4NT.
Yeah,
/4NT, our website /4NT, but I'll put it on the
Can you
spreadsheet.
navigate to it without using an address bar?
no, it's not linked
There's no link.
to it.
There will be a link once I add some notes to the spreadsheet or whatever and make a class assignment, but that's what it is.
We'll send it in an email, how about
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
The
It'll
email
be
that we
everywhere.
send
The
out,
link.
which will have a link to today's video,
The link will be off the spreadsheet.
will tell you to read chapter
Be in the
3 and it'll
email.
have a link.
Right.
We'll send that out before we go to
Before
the
too long.
holiday. Yeah. So, thank you for coming tonight. It was great to see all of you.
Right.
Thanks for leading us.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for sharing your.
So, the teacher has appeared in this world, and the teachings have illuminated it like the light of the sun. May the holders of the teachings be in harmony like siblings, and may the goodness of the teachings remain for a very long time. All those harmonic siblings out there.
The idealized siblings that you would like to have.
The first time I heard y'all say that, I was like, oh, that's cute, that's cute.
Yeah. Where do they live? What family do they have?
Your Buddhist siblings.
That's right, that's idealized.
So tell them good night and.
Good night, thank you so much, everyone online. Oh, they can't see me.
They can't see
Take
you,
care.
but anyway, good night, everybody. See you next time.